Argentina. Say the name, and the world answers with three words. Football, tango, Messi, a country reduced to a stadium roar and a dance in a dim calf. An image so loud that most people never look past it. But the roar was never the real story. It was only the echo. Because stretched between the tropics and the frozen edge of the planet lies a land so vast and so varied that it barely makes sense as a single country. A place where waterfalls thunder through jungle in the north, while glaciers crack like gunfire in the south, where a desert of pure white salt shines under the Andes, and where the southernmost city on Earth watches ships disappear toward Antarctica. This is a country where cowboys still ride across plains that stretch beyond the horizon, where a wall of ice taller than a 20-story building collapses into a lake in front of your eyes, and where, in one quiet corner of Patagonia, entire towns still speak a language from the hills of Wales. In this video, we're going to cross the real Argentina, from its steaming jungles to its frozen fjords. But first, there are some facts you need to hear, because they will completely change the way you see this country. And one of them is so strange that most Argentinians themselves rarely talk about it. So if you're not in a hurry, stay with us. Let the stadium noise fade, and let the 8th largest country on Earth show you how much world can fit inside a single border. If this journey meant something to you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Every response helps us keep exploring the worlds hiding inside the map. Let's begin with the sheer, almost absurd scale of this place. If you stood at Argentina's northern border and began driving south, you would cross nearly 3,700 kilometers before running out of land. That is roughly the distance from London to the middle of the Sahara. Along the way, you would pass through subtropical jungle, dry red canyons, endless grasslands, vineyards, lake districts, deserts, glaciers, and finally, windswept islands at the bottom of the world. One country, almost every climate the planet has to offer. Now consider the emptiness. Argentina is the 8th largest country on Earth, yet nearly 1 in 3 Argentinians lives in and around Buenos Aires alone. Leave the capital, and the land opens into silence. The Great Plains called the Pampas, where grass runs unbroken to the horizon, and the gaucho, the legendary cowboy of South America, still works cattle under an enormous sky. Here's a fact that surprises almost everyone. Argentina holds both the highest and one of the lowest points of the entire hemisphere. Mount Aconcagua rises almost 7,000 meters, the tallest mountain on Earth outside of Asia, while far to the southeast, a sunken depression drops more than 100 meters below sea level. The roof and the basement of a hemisphere, inside one border. And the ice, outside of Antarctica and Greenland, Patagonia holds some of the largest ice fields on the planet. Hundreds of glaciers feeding lakes of a blue so intense it looks artificial. One of these glaciers is so famous, and so strangely alive. that it has become one of the great natural theaters of the world. We will stand in front of it soon. But first, we begin where Argentina itself begins. The city they call the Paris of the South. Buenos Aires, the city of fading grandeur. Buenos Aires does not feel like the rest of South America, and it knows it. Walk its widest avenue, and you are standing on one of the broadest streets in the world. 16 lanes of traffic flowing past a giant white obelisk. Around it rise buildings that look lifted from Paris and Madrid. Grand domes, iron balconies, marble facades, built a century ago when Argentina was one of the richest countries on earth. And its capital wanted the world to know it. But the soul of Buenos Aires is not in its grandeur, it is in its neighborhoods. In San Telmo, antique markets spill across cobbled squares every Sunday, and tango dancers perform in the streets where the dance was born. Not for tourists first, but because it is simply what this city does. In La Boca, houses blaze in patches of red, yellow, and blue. Painted long ago by dock workers using leftover ship paint, poverty turned into one of the most photographed streets on the continent. And then there is a place that sounds impossible. A cemetery that became one of the most beautiful places in the city. Recoleta Cemetery is a city of the dead built like a city of the living, narrow marble streets lined with elaborate mausoleums. Angels frozen mid-flight, and somewhere inside, the tomb of Eva Pern, Evita, the woman whose story still divides and defines this nation. Calves here are protected by law as cultural heritage. One bookshop, built inside a grand old theater, is regularly named among the most beautiful bookshops in the world. Readers browsing beneath a painted dome where audiences once watched opera. When midnight comes and the restaurants are only beginning to fill, when a bandoneon starts to play down a darkened street, Buenos Aires reveals its truth. It is not the Paris of the South. It is something rarer. A city built like a European dream, beating with a heart that is entirely, stubbornly its own. Iguaz, the water that ends the world. Now we fly north, to the border where Argentina meets Brazil, into thick, dripping emerald jungle. Because hidden in that jungle is the largest waterfall system on the planet. Iguaz is not one waterfall. It is nearly 300 of them, spread across almost 3 kilometers of cliffs, a curtain of falling water so wide the eye cannot hold it all at once. The roar arrives long before the view does, rolling through the trees like thunder that never stops. And then, there is the heart of it, a place the local Guaran people named with fearful respect, and the Spanish called the Devil's Throat. Here, half of the river's entire flow plunges into a single U-shaped chasm, a horseshoe of collapsing water 80 meters high, throwing spray so far into the sky that the bottom simply disappears. Standing on the walkway above it, you feel the platform tremble, your clothes soak through, and something ancient in your body tells you to step back. Legend says that when the American First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt first saw Iguaz, she whispered only 3 words. Poor Niagara, because these falls are taller than Niagara, and nearly 3 times as wide, and yet they hide in jungles so dense that jaguars still hunt in the shadows beyond the walkways. When the afternoon sun cuts through the mist, and a full rainbow arcs across the devil's throat, Iguaz stops feeling like scenery. It feels like watching the planet's raw power with the volume turned all the way up. A reminder of how small we have always been. Perito Moreno, the glacier that fights back. From steaming jungle, we now travel almost the full length of the country, down into the cold, wind-scoured south. Because in Patagonia waits a wall of ice that refuses to die. The Perito Moreno Glacier is a frozen river 5 kilometers wide, rising 60 to 70 meters above the water of an ice-blue lake, with far more hidden below the surface. Its face is a chaos of towers, cracks, and canyons of ice, glowing in shades of white and deep glacial blue that seem lit from within. But what makes Perito Moreno famous is not its size, it is its behavior. While most glaciers on Earth are retreating, this one holds its ground, grinding forward meter by meter, day after day. And because it moves, it performs. Without warning, a slab of ice the size of a building leans, cracks with a sound like artillery, and collapses into the lake, sending up waves and a boom that echoes off the mountains. Visitors stand on the walkways for hours, waiting, cameras raised, for the ice to fall. Every few years, the glacier does something even stranger. It advances so far that it seals off an arm of the lake entirely, forming a natural ice dam. The trapped water rises, pressing against the frozen wall, until one day the dam explodes in a cataclysm of collapsing ice, one of the great natural spectacles on Earth. When the evening light turns the ice pink and gold, and another tower crashes into the lake with a roar, Perito Moreno does not feel like a glacier at all. It feels alive, an ancient white beast, breathing, cracking, and reminding the warming world that it is not finished yet. El Chaltén, the mountain of smoke. Deeper still into Patagonia, at the end of a lonely road across the steppe, sits a village with a single purpose. El Chaltén exists for one reason: the mountain that towers behind it. Monte Fitzroy, a blade of sheer granite stabbing 1,700 meters straight up from the ice fields, so steep that snow cannot cling to its walls. The native Tehuelche people called it Chaltén, the smoking mountain, because clouds stream almost permanently from its summit like smoke from a volcano. Climbers speak of Fitzroy in hushed tones. Though far lower than the Himalayas, its vertical granite faces and violent Patagonian weather make it one of the hardest mountains on Earth to climb. In some years, more people stand on the summit of Everest than on the summit of Fitzroy, but you do not need to climb it. Trails lead from the village itself, past waterfalls and wind-bent forests, to lagoons of turquoise meltwater sitting directly beneath the towers. Trekkers rise in darkness to catch the moment locals call the sunrise fire, when the first light strikes the granite, and the entire massif burns red against the dark sky. When that light fades and the clouds return to stream from the summit, Fitzroy settles back into legend. Less a mountain, more a challenge written in stone, one the earth issued long ago and only a handful of humans have ever answered. Bariloche, where the Andes learn to smile. Patagonia is not only fury and ice. Travel north along the spine of the Andes, and the land softens into something almost gentle. This is the Argentinian Lake District, and its capital is Bariloche, a town of stone and timber chalets set on the shore of a vast, deep blue lake, ringed by forested mountains. Swiss and German settlers arrived here generations ago, and they left their mark: alpine architecture, wooden balconies, and an obsession that made the town famous across South America. Chocolate. An entire street in Bariloche is devoted to chocolate shops, and locals will tell you, with complete seriousness, that it rivals anything in Europe. Around the town unfolds one of the most beautiful drives on the continent, a winding circuit, past 7 lakes, each a different shade of blue and green, framed by forests that turn crimson and gold in autumn. Wooden piers stretch into still water. Snow peaks float on the horizon. In winter, the mountains above town become one of South America's great ski regions. In summer, the same slopes fill with hikers and the lakes with sails. When the evening sun slides across the lake and the smell of chocolate drifts down the main street toward the water, Bariloche feels like a secret agreement between two worlds, the wild Andes and the cozy Alps, meeting here and deciding to share the view. Mendoza, wine in the shadow of the giant. Continue north along the Andes, and the land dries into sunburnt plains and poplar-lined roads. This is Mendoza, and it should not exist. This is a desert. Yet Mendoza is one of the great wine capitals of the world, producing the deep, dark Malbec that made Argentinian wine famous on every continent. The secret is above. Snowmelt from the Andes, channeled through irrigation canals first dug by indigenous peoples centuries before the Spanish arrived. Water from 7,000-meter peaks, feeding vineyards in the sand. The result is astonishing. More than 1,000 wineries spread beneath the mountain wall, rows of vines running straight toward snow-covered summits, growing at extreme altitudes where intense sun and cold nights concentrate the grapes into wines of unusual depth. And above it all stands the giant, Aconcagua, almost 7,000 meters high, the roof of the Americas. Its name may come from ancient words meaning stone sentinel, and that is exactly what it is. A colossal, silent guard, visible from the vineyards on clear days, drawing climbers from around the planet. When the sun sets behind the Andes and the vineyards glow amber, and somewhere a table fills with grilled meat and dark red wine, Mendoza reveals Argentina's quiet genius. The north, mountains of 14 colors. Now the journey enters a different Argentina entirely. Older, higher, and painted in colors that do not seem real. In the far northwest, Near the border with Bolivia, a great valley called the Quebrada de Humahuaca cuts through the high desert. For 10,000 years, this valley has been a highway of civilizations, Inca caravans, colonial mule trains, and some of the earliest farming cultures in South America. And the mountains here are painted. In the village of Purmamarca rises the Hill of Seven Colors, its slopes striped in red, pink, orange, green, and violet. Layers of ancient seabeds and minerals folded upward by the rising Andes. But climb higher, up a dizzying mountain road above the town of Humahuaca, and you reach something even more surreal, the Serrana del Hornocal, the mountain of 14 colors, an entire range folded into sharp zigzag triangles of lime, rust, cream, and purple, like the earth itself decided to become art. It feels less like geology, and more like a message left in the rock for anyone patient enough to climb and read it. Peninsula Valdes, where giants come to rest. Back down at the Atlantic coast, a strange hammer-shaped peninsula juts into the cold ocean. It looks like empty scrubland. It is one of the most important marine sanctuaries on Earth. Every year, southern right whales, giants of up to 40 tons, travel thousands of kilometers to the sheltered bays of Peninsula Valdes to mate and raise their calves. From the cliffs, you can watch them roll, breach, and slap the water with tails wider than a car. Mothers gliding with newborn calves in water so shallow and clear that whale watching here feels less like an excursion and more like a visit. But Valdes hides something darker and more spectacular. This is one of the only places on the planet where orcas, killer whales, have learned to hunt by intentionally beaching themselves. In a burst of speed, an orca drives itself up onto the sand to snatch a sea lion pup from the shoreline, then thrashes back into the waves. It is one of the most extraordinary hunting behaviors in the natural world, passed down through generations of the same orca families, seen almost nowhere else. Add to this 500,000 penguins nesting on nearby shores, elephant seals piled like boulders on the beaches, and guanacos and rheas roaming the steppe, and this quiet peninsula becomes something remarkable. And now, the promise from the beginning of our journey, the towns the maps forget to explain. In the dry valley of the Chubut River, in the middle of Patagonia, sit towns with names like Gaiman, Trelew, and Trevelin. Walk their streets, and something feels wrong in the most wonderful way. Stone chapels stand against the desert wind. Tea houses serve black tea, scones, and a dense fruitcake at 4 in the afternoon. One country, 1,000 worlds. Our journey across Argentina ends here, at the bottom of the map. But the country itself refuses to end so neatly. We have walked a capital built like a European dream, stood soaked in the spray of the largest waterfall system on Earth, watched a glacier collapse like thunder, and seen granite towers burn red at dawn. We have tasted wine grown in a desert, climbed to mountains painted in 14 colors, met whales in shallow bays, heard Welsh hymns in the Patagonian wind, and watched ships sail from the last city on Earth toward the ice. And through it all, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Argentina is not one place. It is a continent folded into a country, jungle and glacier, silence and tango, European avenues and Andean villages, all held together by an identity as passionate and complicated as the people who carry it. Perhaps that is the real wonder of Argentina.